and the reading of 2nd Esdras 13. Of course, it's one of the books that were removed from the Apocrypha. This is when he has gathered his people to Mount Zion. The nations will unite with the single purpose of making war on my son. He will take his stand on top of Mount Zion, and the New Jerusalem will be seen by everyone. So he'll be gathering all the nations of the world to Mount Zion, the battle Armageddon, and there he will destroy all of them. And like I explained before, Jerusalem is America, Mount Zion is in America. You saw him gather another great crowd of peace-loving people. These are the 10 tribes of Israel who were taken away into captivity. A little further down. But the 10 tribes decided not to stay in that land among that many Gentiles. So they moved further east to a country where no human beings have ever lived before. I'm going to play for you a video that this lady posted. But you see what I highlighted? Shadata? I'm not too sure if I said that correctly. In it, she's referring to the curses of Deuteronomy. In the strong conquerors, Shata. To miss, go wrong, sin. Bear the blame, bewilder, bore the loss. To bring sin, commit sin. Done wrong, fear loss. A couple more, done wrong, sin, sinner, sinning, sin. So I'm going to play for you that video. That's what it says in the reading of Jeremiah. I will repay Babylon and all the Chaldeans for all the evil that they have done to my people, says Adonai. Just as Babylon has killed the people of Israel, so must she be killed. And for the ones who are posting videos saying that the Native Americans were actually black, and they're discrediting the red nations, including the Tainos, I have a couple of videos for you too. There are 2 kingdoms. The northern kingdom, which is the red nations, the southern kingdom, Judah, the dark races. The northern kingdom fell first. Under the curses, we were the first slaves, the first ones to go on ships overseas during the Columbus Exchange, and our people are still in reservations today. It shows that in books that they started to refer to the red nations, the copper nations, as black. They started to call them colored or mulattoes. So if you were brown or copper color, you were considered colored.
Want to hear a story? This story is going to take us to Tennessee, and I'm going to be real honest, a place I cannot pronounce. I so badly want to say Chitata, but I am almost certain that's not right. This is the place we're going. It was here in 1891 that evidence of an ancient wall was discovered that has puzzled historians for over 100 years. That summer, the summer of 1891, a man named Isaac Hooper was working on the foundation of his mill when he discovered a stone sticking up out of the ground that he at first thought was a headstone. It was sticking out of the ground just like that. Well, as he continued to dig, he discovered that it was not a single stone, but part of a 3-tier sandstone wall, which was about 900 to 1,000 feet long and slightly curved, which followed the crest of a ridge. And about 16 feet of its length was covered in strange markings that looked like hieroglyphics that were arranged in these wavy parallel lines. All these little lines right here are these hieroglyphic markings. In one newspaper article, the wall was described as being 2.5 feet thick, built of stones about 2 feet square and 10-inch thick, having 3 tiers of stone in which strange characters appeared only on the west face of the middle tier. It was also discovered that there were other stone tablets like this that were sticking out of the ground at intervals of about 25 to 30 feet. And some of them, including the first one that he found, also had these strange markings and inscriptions on it. Well, this discovery caused quite a stir in the academic community. And at first, even the Smithsonian supported the excavation. And in late 1891, they even sent out an artist to make sketches of the etched sections and impressions of the characters. Mixed in with some of the hieroglyphics were also strange symbols. Some of them look like animals, like that one. And the Smithsonian even displayed a section of the wall from the year 1900 to 1902. At first, fully supported the legitimacy of this find, until abruptly in 1902, the section that they had was returned to the owner. And they told him that it was because there was question as to whether the markings constituted as inscriptions. At this point, the wall may have been forgotten, except that historian and professor Albert Rawson heard about the wall and was intrigued by it. So he funded excavations himself and also hired a team of cipher experts. They declared that these markings were Old Hebrew and that the inscriptions found were of a religious and historical nature and was buried at least 4,000 years ago. Rawson also announced that he believed that the wall had been made by a lost tribe of Israel and that at least one or more of the lost tribes had made their way into America by way of the Bering Strait and made it all the way to Tennessee. And after relocating here, they inscribed the tablets with their holy laws in obedience to the injunction of Moses and sealed them away for preservation. He believes at the point that they were made that the tribe may have been at war and nearing extinction. So they made it as a way to leave record of themselves and their history and religion. He believed this because the cipher experts were able to translate some of the tablets, which made reference to the 7th, 9th, and 11th chapters of, I've never been able to say this word, Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy. I've read the Bible and I still couldn't even say that word in my head. And also the 8th chapter of Joshua and the 3rd chapter of Judges. When you look at these particular chapters, it talks about how God is going to bring them into this new land to possess, and about the tablets he gave to Moses, about how Joshua struck down that one city, and just a lot about them conquering other nations and, moving into the new land. And there's several mentions of tablets. Well, this discovery would absolutely change the course of history as we know it. And so the Smithsonian quickly denounced Rawson's claims, and this wall was declared a natural phenomenon, and that these aren't inscriptions, that they were made by ancient mollusks. What? Eventually, the story faded from the public eye and also mostly from memory. And what makes it even odder is that over time, this wall supposedly disappeared. It is considered lost. I don't know how someone loses a 1,000-foot wall, but okay. I do know all the tablet stones were dug up, but the wall itself is probably still out there. Where, though, is the question. Luckily for us, Hooper's Mill was of historical value, and so there's still record of its location, which is right where that little X is. It was stated that the tablet stones and the wall was discovered on his property, which used to be right there, and ran along a ridge somewhere on this property. Pottery has also been found in this area with similar markings. But there's probably some other cool artifacts floating around out here. Something else strange that I noticed is there seems to be some connection between here and the Red Clay State Historic Park. Because one article did state that the beginning of the wall laid somewhere near the Blue Hole Spring. Now, these two places seem a little far away to me, but I don't know where this wall is. But Red Clay State Park is also significant for other reasons. The park preserves the Red Clay Council Grounds, which was the last seat of the Cherokee National Government before the 1838 enforcement of the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which, as we know, was enforced by the U.S. military and began the forced march west that we know of as the Trail of Tears. So Red Clay State Park is quite literally where the trail begins. Inside the park is also the Eternal Flame of the Cherokee Nation, which was erected on April 6th of 1984 as a memorial to those who suffered and died on the Trail of Tears. In this beautiful little spot is the Blue Hole Spring. It was considered sacred and also provided the drinking water for the council. I still do not understand the connection between the hole and the wall, but there seems to be one. Other than the fact that all of this was Cherokee grounds, and there are various places of special importance to the tribe. And a theory that is less published of Rawson's, that he not only believes that the wall was built by one of the lost tribes, but that these tribes could be the Cherokee people. But what do y'all think? Could this strange discovery really have been inscribed with ancient Hebrew and built by one of the legendary lost tribes of Israel?
Many authors have contended that the North American Indians were descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Prominent among them was James Adair, whose work highly useful with regard to the customs of the southeastern Indians, among whom he spent many years, was mainly devoted to proof of the proposition. So we do have a book from James Adair, and we're going to go into it later. The Reverend Ethan Smith is also conspicuous, and even the last book discussing the Indians published last year, bearing the comprehensive title The American Indian, favors the same theory. The authors of the school mentioned have for their excuse the fact, which I freely admit with greater emphasis, that an outstanding number of customs of the North American Indians are the same as those recorded of the ancient Hebrews. But the book from 1803 to the Civil War, all free people of color in Virginia were required to register. The register for Essex County has survived, alright? That record exists today. And in it, we find many Indian people listed, but none are called Indians. They're actually, listen to what they're called. Classifications given include black. Alright, these are Indians who are being classified as black, dark brown, tawny, very dark mulatto, a dark mulatto, shade lighter than a dark mulatto, bright mulatto, very bright mulatto, and very bright mulatto, almost white. So you hear all these classifications. These are all Indians, different shades of color, right, of copper. The 1800, 1810, 1820, and 1830 census are the free person of color category for most non-whites, including Indians person of color. Thus, the native families of Robeson County, North Carolina, and all Virginia counties are always classified as colored persons, always classified. The native families, again, were classified as colored persons in the 1800, 1810, 1820, and 18